Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 24 ranked quarterbacks and my top 24 ranked tight ends in today's video. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at notorious FNTSY. And if you have any questions about week number 5 overall, please make sure they ask down below in the comment section. I love to talk to you guys down there. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 5 top 24 quarterbacks and my top 24 tight end rankings. We begin with quarterbacks 1 through 8, headlined by Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Now, through the first 4 games this season, Josh Allen has finished inside the top 5 at the quarterback position in every single game. This week, he gets the Pittsburgh Steelers, whose defense is down bad without TJ Watt. TJ Watt, while he's only one player, plays a significant role in this defense, and without him, the defense looks to be in shambles. So I really do think Josh Allen is going to have a field day here up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Buffalo Bills are currently minus 14 favorites in this game. So Vegas and basically everyone and their mother believes that the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen are going to kick the ever-living shit out of the Steelers. At number 2, we got Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. The first 3 games of the season were awesome for Lamar Jackson, quarterback 8-1-1. Last week up against the Buffalo Bills, he only finished as the quarterback number 19. But the reason why we like Lamar Jackson so much is because he's actually gotten significantly better as a passer, as well as his immense rushing upside. Week 2 up against the Dolphins, 119 rushing yards. Week 3 against New England, 107. And last week up against the Bills, 73. This week, he faces the Bengals defense, which in my opinion is pretty so-so. Now, I do understand that over the last couple of weeks, we have gotten abysmally bad primetime games. This is a primetime matchup between the Ravens and the Bengals, but the Bengals defense didn't look the best to me up against the Miami Dolphins last week. It was more the fact that Tua ended up getting hurt. I really do believe that if Tua Tagovailoa stayed in that game, that would have been a very high-scoring, back-and-forth affair. So I think Lamar Jackson has a great showing up against the Cincinnati Bengals this week. And in my opinion, he is one of 2 guys that I believe could win and should be winning MVP of the NFL this season if it ended right now. In reality, there's 3 guys, and it's the top 3 quarterbacks on my list: Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and quarterback number 3, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. First 3 weeks of the season, kind of like Lamar Jackson, the guy was on fire. Quarterback number 4, quarterback 3, and quarterback number 2 last week up against the Jaguars. Quarterback number 15, he didn't even necessarily have all that bad of a game. Miles Sanders ends up going crazy. Thus, Jalen Hurts doesn't have all that good of a game. But it's okay, because we all know that Jalen Hurts has taken a big leap up this year in 2022. The Arizona Cardinals defense is not very good. They're a huge step down from what we saw out of them last season. Jalen Hurts has been on an absolute tear. He's also looking significantly better in terms of throwing the football, and up against this Cardinals defense, he could easily be the number 1 quarterback at the end of the week. For me, the top 6 quarterbacks on this list, wouldn't surprise me if any of them finished as the number 1 quarterback at the end of the week, and they are all kind of in a similar tier together. Next up, we move to Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore on Sunday Night Football. All 4 games at the start of the season, he has been inside the top 15 at the quarterback position, 3 weeks inside of the top 10. Last week up against the Dolphins, 20 completions on 31 attempts for 287 passing yards, 5 rushes, 6 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 20 fantasy points, quarterback number 10. The Miami Dolphins defense did not look the best in that game, but doesn't really matter how good the Dolphins defense looked, because the Baltimore Ravens defense is ass. The Baltimore Ravens defense is terrible, and I think Joe Burrow is going to go off in this game. He just has so many weapons that are just top tier at their position. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are the upper echelon wide receivers in the league. Joe Mixon's one of the best running backs. Now, Hayden Hurst is not like an upper echelon tight end, but he's pretty good. And then they have Tyler Boyd, who's a pretty good receiver as well. So there's just a lot of weapons for Joe Burrow. And again, the Baltimore Ravens defense is dick cheese, so I expect Burrow to have a great game. Moving to number 5, we got Patty Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football. Patrick Mahomes, despite the fact that everyone was kind of preying on his downfall after Tyreek Hill left, there were people in the comment section saying, Nick, Patrick Mahomes isn't even going to finish inside the top 10 without Tyreek Hill. Well, right now he's inside the top 5. He's quarterback number 4. Week 1, quarterback 1. Week 2, quarterback 13. Week 3, quarterback 11. And last week up against the Bucks, quarterback number 6. All of the weapons the Kansas City Chiefs have aren't the best, right? Kelsey's really good. Then they have Juju, McCall Hardman, MVS, but all Mahomes needs is one of those guys outside of Kelsey to step up every single game, and he could have a great performance. The Raiders' defense is not very good. I do think this could be a higher scoring game if the Raiders are able to kind of fight back into this air attack by the Kansas City Chiefs. So I definitely like Mahomes in this spot. Next up, we move to Justin Herbert, the pervert of the LA Chargers, going up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, obviously, after Justin Herbert got hurt, me and everyone else and their fucking mother was worried about Justin Herbert, because when you see an injury like that and he comes back in the game up against the Chiefs and it looks like he can't throw the ball at all. You remember that one play where he goes to run? It's like, oh, you could easily run for the first down, and they just like throws it away, right? Because he was clearly hurting, and then he throws that deep dart down the field in that same game. Justin Herbert is not a human or something. The guy's a fucking lizard or something, because he is just playing abysmally well, despite the fact that he is clearly banged up. Last week up against the Texans, 27 of 39 for 340 passing yards, 4 rushes, -5 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 21 fantasy points, quarterback number 9. This week he goes up against the Cleveland Browns defense, and the Browns defense doesn't look the best. The Browns offense has really impressed me. I thought that without Deshaun Watson, this offense was going to be bad, because based on what I've seen out of Jacoby Brissett in his career, he hasn't really leveled up, right? He's just kind of been the same guy, just this all-right quarterback that you probably would rather have as your backup, but he's looked really good this year. He definitely has impressed me, and the fact if the Cleveland Browns offense looks good and they're able to run the ball effectively on the LA Chargers, kind of run up the score, have a nice back-and-forth game, that could really help out Mr. Justin Herbert, the pervert. At number 7, we move to the short king himself, Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. 3 weeks out of the last 4 inside of the top 10. Now, Kyler Murray and this whole Arizona Cardinals team, to me, has been a big disaster. I honestly thought they would look much better. They always start the year off looking incredibly good. Now, I'm kind of beating this like a dead horse here, because I've talked about this a ton, but it really is just shocking to see. Normally, these Cliff Kingsbury offenses and the team as a whole just come out the gate swinging for the fucking fences. They're just dominating teams 50 Shades of Grey style, but now they're kind of not playing the best. Kyler Murray has looked good, though, even despite the play calling errors. The fact that the offense just hasn't looked the best, Kyler still gets it done. He does have that safe rushing floor. Last week up against the Panthers in a game, I honestly thought he would do a little bit better, and I thought the team would do better. They really let the Carolina Panthers kind of hang into that one. 23 completions on 32 attempts, 207 passing yards, 12 rushes, 26 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT, 24 fantasy points, quarterback number 7. I understand that the Eagles defense is certainly good, and they honestly look like they might be the best defense in the NFL. I still think Kyler Murray gets it done, but if you wanted to rank him close to quarterback 9 or 10, that wouldn't really I wouldn't be mad at you and be like, oh, that's fucking stupid, right? It does seem like a not insane person take. Quarterback number 8, we got old man himself, Tampa Bay Tom Brady, and we got, you know how Michael Jordan had the flu game? In reality, I don't think he actually had the flu. It was like food poisoning or something. We are now going to have the Tom Brady divorce game up against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, to start off the season, Tom Brady was the opposite of on fire. He was ice fucking cold. Quarterback 26, 28. Week 3 up against Green Bay. He kind of starts to wake up. Quarterback 19. Last week up against the Kansas City Chiefs, quarterback number 4. All of the weapons that Tom Brady needs are healthy. Seems like Russell Gage, Julio, Godwin, as well as Mike Evans are all going to play in this game. But up against the Atlanta Falcons defense, he doesn't even need all of the fucking Avengers to assemble for him to have a big game. Again, I really do think the divorce narrative is going to push me towards Tom Brady. It actually doesn't matter at all, because the Atlanta Falcons defense is as soft as baby shit. I expect a huge performance out of the GOAT, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. Moving to quarterbacks 9 through 16, we got Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions going up against the New England Patriots. Now, if you told me before the season that I'd have Jared Goff ranked as a top 10 quarterback at any point in the season, I would have told you were crazy. And then if I told myself that he was currently quarterback number 5, I would say that is impossible. Now, when you think back to the offseason, everyone was fluffing up these players. And by fluffing up, I don't mean like fucking up, like trying to censor myself. I mean like giving that little fluff to the offense. Everyone's talking up Amon Ra. Everyone's talking about up DeAndre Swift. There's people talking up TJ Hawkinson, DJ Chark, Jameson Williams when he comes back. But for some reason, Jared Goff was just laying dormant at the end of rankings. So how could all of those guys have popped if Jared Goff didn't play good? Pretty similar to what we did with Tua Tagovailoa with, Tyreek Hill, top 3-round pick. Same with Waddle. We like Waddle. We didn't like Gesicki that much, but we like those two guys, but we still had Tua kind of buried in the rankings. Very similar here. Jared Goff has looked unreal. Again, he's quarterback number 5 on the season right now. He was quarterback number 1 last week up against the Seattle Seahawks. 4 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, 378 passing yards, 34 fantasy points. I understand the Patriots defense is much better than the Seahawks defense, but at the end of the day, the Detroit Lions defense is so fucking embarrassingly bad that they have to throw the ball so much in these games that I expect Jared Goff to have a pretty solid showing. At number 10, we have Mr. You Like That, Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Chicago Bears at home in Minnesota. Now, last week I talked about Kirk Cousins and how, hey, since this game is played in London, I don't know if that's technically a primetime game because, while it's 9:15 a.m. in the morning here, it's like 4:10 or 4:15, I guess. That would make sense. 4:15 in England. So that's like a normal game for Kirk Cousins. He doesn't play the best. 273 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 14 fantasy points, 21 at the quarterback position. So a very weird week. Kirk Cousins is currently the quarterback 17. This week he goes up against the sorry Chicago Bears, who basically got plowed by the Giants when they didn't even have Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor starting. So Kirk Cousins, the king of Minnesota, Mr. You Like That. I like him to have a pretty solid game here. It's cold like Minnesota. Shout out to Lil Yachty, who brought the walk to Poland. If you guys haven't heard that song, that shit is it makes no sense why it's good. It's just music, like the what's that called? Like the way he just, the auto-tune is like having sex with your eardrums. It's truly beautiful. Quarterback number 11, Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Now, this Raiders offense has definitely been a flop compared to what most people thought. Very similar to their division mates, the Broncos. Speaking of the Broncos, last week the Raiders played up against the Broncos. Derek Carr, 21 of 34 for 188 passing yards, 7 rushes for 40 yards, which is not necessarily unheard of. Like, you could see Derek Carr doing that, but that's not something you would normally predict. 12 fantasy points, quarterback 25, which was his worst game on the season. Right now, Carr is ranking inside the top 13 at the quarterback position as QB number 13. I like this matchup against the Chiefs because I think that the Raiders should be able to fight into this game. The issue is the Chiefs' defense is actually much better than years prior. I think their defense is definitely upgraded, and that's kind of what happens when you don't have to play Tyreek Hill. You can kind of have a better defense, and they're just playing much better than they did last season. As a whole, I think Derek Carr's a good start, but I do kind of worry because the Chiefs' defense is pretty solid. At number 12, we have Trevor Lawrence, quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the Houston Texans this week. Now, Trevor Lawrence last year kind of looked like, I'm not going to say looked like a bust because I'm not going to call anyone a bust in just 1 year, but it's like, oh, wow. Like, this guy was like, they wrote fucking prophecies about this guy. And obviously he wasn't playing well last year, but that's really just because Urban Meyer was such a fucking complete and utter stooge. He was an idiot, and he kind of fucked Trevor Lawrence over. Now with Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence has been fully unlocked. Last week up against the Eagles, he only finished as quarterback 30, but again, the Eagles' defense is really stout, and that does kind of worry me slightly about Kyler Murray. But the weeks before that, quarterback 4 against the Chargers in week 3, quarterback 12, quarterback 24 through the first 4 weeks of the season. He's currently the quarterback number 15. We just saw the Houston Texans get bent over a table by the LA Chargers. We also saw Trevor Lawrence bend over the LA Chargers defense. So Trevor Lawrence, which doesn't actually correlate at all, but I just thought it was interesting. Trevor Lawrence has looked really good. He's been really impressive. This offense and team as a whole has done a complete and utter 180 just from last year to the start of this season. I think the Jaguars might even make the fucking playoffs. They might even win their goddamn division. So I do like Trevor Lawrence a ton in this matchup, even though he doesn't have like the best weapons besides Christian Kirk and James Robinson. He does have guys to throw the ball to and Trevor Lawrence is just so talented that he makes plays even with these subpar wide receivers besides Christian Kirk, who does literally look amazing. I judged heavily. I was like, dude, they paid him too much money for no reason. I guess I was a little bit wrong, right? I guess that's why I don't pay the guys the big bucks. But then again, I did like Kenny Galladay, and that was a no bueno. No bueno move for the Giants. Quarterback 13, Mr. Discount, double check. Ron Rodgers in New York. Or not in New York. They're playing the Giants. But this is in London, baby. In London versus the corpse of Daniel Jones. Quarterback 32 to start off the year, but Rodgers started off bad last year, and I said he's going to bounce back. Then quarterback 17, 13, 14. Right now, Rodgers doesn't really excite me. The fact that he lost Devontae Adams doesn't necessarily derail Rodgers, but it's not helping him. He's probably going to finish this week as like quarterback 8 through 14. That's why I got him ranked as quarterback 13. The matchup against the Giants is great, but this is in London, and typically some wonky shit happens in London, so I don't necessarily expect. I think if this game was in Lambeau or even in MetLife, then Aaron Rodgers would skull fuck the Giants defense, but since it's in London, I think some more crazy shit will happen. I expect Rodgers to have a decent game. He's currently quarterback number 22 in fantasy. I think that's going to continue to rise over the next couple of weeks, right? He gets, after the Giants, the Jets, then the Commanders. Then he plays the tough Buffalo defense, but then Detroit, Dallas, Tennessee, Philly, Chicago before his bye week. Like, I think he's going to shoot up to be around quarterback 13, 14, 15. He's been pretty decent thus far, just not mouth-watering to want to start him. But after him is where things start to get a little bit risque at the position. Next up, we move to Geno Smith, quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, going up against the New Orleans Saints. Back-to-back games as a top 10 quarterback, 3 of the first 4 games as a top 15 quarterback, and he's currently quarterback number 11. Last week up against the Lions, 23 completions on 30 attempts for 320 passing yards, 7 rushes for 49 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs, 32 fantasy points, quarterback number 2. Now, the Saints defense going into the year, I definitely liked. I'm not going to lie to you and be like, oh, I knew the Saints defense wasn't going to be as good as a lot of people did. Thought they were going to be pretty decent. Now, again, they're not awful. It's not like the Saints defense is just like one-ply fucking tissue paper, but they aren't as good as I thought they would be. So, the Seattle Seahawks offense is significantly better than I thought they would be. Now, for a game script kind of narrative for what I would want for Geno is I would want the Saints to have Jameis. Jameis does not seem like he's going to play on Sunday, and I think for a higher scoring game narrative, you would want Jameis in the game opposed to the Red Rifle Andy Dalton. I still do think that Geno should have a decent game, but again, I definitely would prefer Geno if Jameis was on the other side to kind of push the game to be higher scoring. Before we move on into the next bunch of quarterbacks, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, if you're new to Underdog Fantasy, they are a best ball website, and the best thing about best ball is that you don't have to set your lineup, you don't have to make any trades because there's no trades, there's no setting your lineup, and there's no waiver wire because Underdog at the end of the week will automatically put the highest scores into your lineup. And they released about a week ago, the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament, week 6 through 17. Now it's week 5, so you only got a couple more days to do this before kickoff on Thursday Night Football, but they got the week 6 through week 17 Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. $10 to enter, $100,000 to first place, $500,000 in total prizes. Before Thursday Night Football next week, I'm going to sit here at my desk and look like that fucking guy in South Park that was playing World of Warcraft, just blasting off a million drafts in a row to try to make sure I get a bunch of entries in there to try to win the $100,000 myself. But if you want your chance to try to do that, make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. If you use promo code Stokastic, you'll get a $100 first match deposit bonus. So you deposit $100 if you're new on there. They'll give you an additional $100, which is 10 free entries into the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. So make sure you check that out. It is really fun, genuinely. I advertise it because I think it's a fun thing. I play on there all the time, so make sure you guys do check that out. Moving now to quarterback number 15, we got Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Roosevelt of the Miami Dolphins. Last week, he finished as the quarterback 24, but it wasn't like he played the whole game or something. Obviously, Tua got hurt, not necessarily right at the beginning of the game. This week, he will have 10 days to practice since it was Thursday Night Football for the Jets. So I think the game plan will be for Teddy. Like, there were plays in the game where they do a play action pass, and the play action pass was for Tua, but Teddy's in the game. So Teddy is going left instead of right, and then he's doing like a fucking 180 no scope phase style to try to fucking turn around and throw the ball. Like, that's not going to be designed in the playbook for Teddy when he's the starter. So I think Teddy's going to have a good game against the Jets. Teddy covers is really good against the spread when he's the starter. I think he has a good game here against the Jets. Number 16, we got Matthew Stafford. Now, Matthew Stafford has fallen down the rankings like Humpty Dumpty fell off the goddamn wall. Quarterback 29, 10, 27, and 29 through the first 4 games of the season. He's currently the quarterback 25. And this week, he faces the Dallas Cowboys, whose defense is scarier than figuring out that your side chick is pregnant with your kid. So you better worry about Matthew Stafford in this game. He hasn't shown anything. But the problem is, once we get past Matthew Stafford in the rankings, things start to get even more iffy. Like, in my opinion, eventually things are going to turn around for the Rams. I'm not sure it's this game because, again, the Dallas defense is good. But one day, I feel like the Super Bowl hangover is going to finally just dissipate. Like, they need a bunch of those fucking IV things you can get at the doctor, and it just, like, removes your hangover. The whole team needs one of those. Next up, we moved quarterback 17, Carson Wentz. First 2 weeks of the season, Carson Wentz was amazing. Quarterback 3, quarterback 5. Last 2 weeks, quarterback 30 and 27. This week, he gets the Les Titans. I mean, the Titans aren't the best defense, but Carson Wentz also is not the best quarterback. Eventually, I feel like he's going to bounce back and be like quarterback 15. Like, quarterback 30 and 27 is just abysmally bad. But then again, Carson Wentz isn't that great of a quarterback. But those 2 bad games were against the Eagles and the Cowboys. This week, he gets the Titans. Then he plays Chicago, Green Bay. So I think he will bounce back. I'm not too sure this is the game where he really cements himself back into being a top 12 fantasy quarterback for at least the next couple of games. But I do think he should finish around quarterback 17. Number 18, we got another quarterback in that game, Ryan Tannehill of the Les Titans up against the Commanders in Washington. Now, early on in the season, I was starting to get worried about Ryan Tannehill. I was thinking, oh my God, man. They drafted Malik Willis. Now, they didn't draft him like the first round or something, but like with how Tannehill was playing, it was like Malik Willis was going to get the call from Vrabel and be like, hey, pal, you're the starter now. Like, that's what it really started to feel like. And it felt like that one meme. I don't remember. I think it's Jamal Adams when he was on the Jets. And I don't know if you ever seen the video where he goes like put his key card in. I don't know if it's actually like you put the key card in or you like tap it like it's a fucking credit card on the wall and it doesn't let him in. He's like, oh fuck, I must have been cut. That's what I think Ryan Tannehill was thinking. Oh man, I might get my ass cut from this team. Now they weren't obviously going to cut him, but you get what I'm saying. Things weren't looking the best. Now he gets the Commanders, quarterback 11, 32, 8, and 20. Currently the quarterback 21. The matchup is pretty decent. But again, once we're in this range, these guys aren't quarterbacks I really want to start. Quarterback number 19, Marcus Mariota of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Bucs. First 3 games of the season, he looked good. Quarterback 10, 18, 15. Last week, dead last is quarterback number 32. Marcus Mariota has some solid rushing upside. They don't throw the ball much. This week up against the Bucs, they're going to have to throw the ball. The issue is they're going to be without Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson. Their 2 best weapons outside of Drake London. Now, Kyle Pitts' usage was the complete opposite of a whore, right? He was just not getting used at all. He was like a born-again virgin, basically, because they weren't using him. So I think this year we should see this game, we should see Marcus Mariota bounce back, but anywhere ahead of quarterback like 18 to me seems a little crazy, especially against the Bucs defense. Quarterback 20, the MILF Hunter, the MILF Slayer himself, Zach Wilson of the New York Jumbo Jets. Last week against the Steelers, Zach Wilson looked like horseshit the first half of the game. Then at the end of the game, he kind of turned things on, just like his cock when he sees an older female. 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs, 20 fantasy points, 11. Quarterback number 11 at the end of the week. Pretty okay game. I mean, I'm not that impressed by him. I want to see more out of Zach before I rank him much higher, but he does have rushing upside. Not like big rushing upside. He's going to rush a million times, but he's rushing touchdown upside. Playing the Dolphins. The Dolphins defense is banged up right now, and that might be an understatement. The Dolphins defense is severely banged up, just like Zach Wilson's friend's mom to Zach Wilson, banged up. So Zach Wilson here. I'm too many MILF jokes. Next quarterback, Jacoby Brissett of the Cleveland Browns going up against the LA Superchargers. I like Jacoby Brissett in this game, but I really find it hard pressed to rank him super highly because the Chargers defense has been severely underperforming compared to my expectations, and I think eventually they're going to find water, and it's going to be against the Browns. I also think the Browns are going to try to run a lot in this game, but I got to give Jacoby Brissett credit because he's quarterback 18 right now in fantasy. He's been a top 16 quarterback 3 out of the last 4 games. His worst performance was week 1. Ever since then, he's been getting better and better and better. So I think I got to give Jacoby Brissett some credit. So quarterback 21. 22, we got Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Guap, Jimmy Pornstar, Jimmy Garoppolo up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Jimmy Garoppolo is the most uninteresting quarterback in fantasy. He's going to throw 1 or 2 touchdowns every week, probably throw an interception, or if he never throws like 3 interceptions. So he's going to throw an interception or no interceptions. He's just going to look decent, and he's going to finish as like quarterback 22 or 27, something like that. And if he has a really good game, he'll be like quarterback 15. Jimmy Garoppolo is uninteresting, but in like 2 quarterback leagues, he's an incredibly safe 18 plus points every week. So, I mean, if you want to start Jimmy, I get why, but he's just super uninteresting to me. Next up, we move to Cooper Rush of the Dallas Cowboys going up against the LA Rams. Cooper Rush has been insane as the starter of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, not meaning insane like insanely good, but they just keep winning these games, so he deserves at least some credit. Now, he hasn't been great for fantasy. Quarterback 20, 23, and 13 over the last 3 games. Looked really good up against the Commanders last week, but this week he gets the LA Rams. Now, I understand the Rams defense has not looked very good at all, but if there was ever a spot to bounce back for the Rams, it would probably be up against Cooper Rush, because Cooper Rush just isn't all that great. Again, I give him credit. Much better than I thought he would be, but he's still not very good. Final quarterback here inside of the top 24 before we pivot to the tight ends. Davis Money Mills, the neck man himself of the Houston Texans, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week in Jacksonville. Now, I do like Davis Mills a ton, but he hasn't been the best this year, quarterback 24, but he does get the Jaguars this week, an in-division matchup. I understand the Jaguars defense is a lot better than I thought they would be, but since it's an in-division game, I think that Davis Mills looks decent. Again, we already had Mr. Unlimited Play, who was ranked inside my top 18, who obviously didn't play good. We also had Matt Ryan, who probably would have been quarterback 24, didn't play all that good either. So now we have Davis Mills as quarterback 24. Now we'll pivot to the tight end position. Tight end number 1 is, you guessed it, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Las Vegas Raiders inside of the first 4 games. Inside of the first 4 games, he's been tight end numero uno, tight end 3, and tight end number 3, and then tight end 14 once. But hey, you're allowed to have a down game when you are the best tight end in the NFL. This week he gets the Raiders. Again, I like this matchup for Mahomes, so obviously I like it for Kelce. He's the clear number 1 target on this team, the clear number 1 receiver, and he plays tight end. The guy has been just fantastic. And actually, week 2, he was tight end 15 in half PPR. He was tight end 14 in standard, but still tight end 1, 15, 3, and 3. He's been excellent thus far to start the season. Number 2, we got the clear number 2 tight end, who you can make an argument might be the number 1 tight end at the end of the year, Mr. Mark Andrews, tight end of the Baltimore Ravens. Going up against the Cincinnati Bengals this week, tight end 12, 1, 1, and 45. I got a Colt 45 and 2 zigzags last week. Not so hot for Mark Andrews. 5 targets, 2 receptions, 15 receiving yards in that game where that team crumbled like a fucking cookie up against the Buffalo Bills. That was a very bad scene for the Baltimore Ravens. But hey, Mark Andrews looked pretty... I'm not going to say Mark Andrews looked good in that game, but he was targeted a decent amount. Like, it's not like Mark Andrews' target share is just magically depleted now because he has 1 bad game. So don't panic. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Mark Andrews, tight end number 2 this week. Next up, we move to Darren Waller of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. First 2 games of the season, Darren Waller caught fire, tight end 9 and tight end number 2. But the last 2 weeks, he's kind of been on a downward spiral as tight end number 31 and 30. Currently, he is tight end number 12 on the season. I don't really think Darren Waller's doing anything wrong. It's kind of more Derek Carr isn't playing the best, and this whole offense kind of isn't clicking to the ability that we thought they would be clicking at, right? With just such a good offense. Hunter Renfrow might be back in this game. I think that just helps out the offense as a whole, kind of takes away some coverage from Darren Waller. Overall, though, I think it's pretty safe to assume that Kelsey, Andrews, and Waller will be the top 3 tight ends in my rankings every single week. Some weeks, Mark Andrews will be above Kelsey. Other weeks, Kelsey will be 1 and Andrews will be 2. And then Darren Waller's kind of just locked and loaded in as the tight end number 3. At number 4, we got TJ Hawkinson of the Detroit Lions going up against the New England Deflatriots in New England. Right now, TJ Hawkinson is listed as questionable. He did return to practice on Thursday. In my opinion, it seems pretty likely that he plays on Sunday. Last week, up against the Seattle Seahawks, he took them to Pound Town, scoring 36 half PPR points. Tight end number 1, 12 targets, 8 receptions, 179 yards. I think it was a top 10 ever tight end performance in fantasy football. So I don't remember what number it was. I off the top of my head, I think I read tight end 6, but I don't want to say that, which I already did, but I don't want to say, oh, he was definitely tight end 6. Then someone fact checks it. Nick, you dumb motherfucker. He was actually tight end 8 ever in that game, you stupid fucking bastard. Because that's what'll happen, right? People fact check me. So I'm just going to give you the facts on file, like that site I used to use in middle school in order to do my research. So tight end number 1 last week, tight end 4 in my rankings. I don't think the sun god Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to play. So Hawkinson's in for another big day. Without Swift, man, Hawkinson's in to eat. Next up, we got Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Arizona Cardinals. Currently tight end number 6 on the season. Dallas Goedert is basically the most safe tight end outside of those top 3 guys to rank every week. He's going to finish anywhere from tight end, I would say, 5 or 4 to tight end like 15. Now, obviously, there's a big difference between 4 and 15, but he's never really going to screw you in the ass. He's probably going to get 4 to 7, 8 targets a game. 8 targets would be obviously like his peak because they have A.J. Brown now, but the team looks really good. This offense is clicking on all cylinders up against the Cardinals defense. Again, the Cardinals defense isn't looking very good. I like Goddard. On the other side of the ball, I also like Zach Ertz, tight end number 6 of the Arizona Cardinals, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Tight end 7, 5, 15, and 5 through the last 4 games. Currently, the tight end number 4. I kind of had to have a mental battle in my mind with the devil and the angel on my shoulder, kind of debating between who I should rank higher, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Ultimately, if you have either of them, you're probably going to play them anyways. So I went with Goddard over Ertz because the Eagles defense is definitely pretty good, but it is a revenge game for my main man, Zach Ertz. But it's not really a revenge game because in reality, this was the best case scenario for both of them. Zach Ertz's career was on like a downswing. He gets moved to Arizona and it starts going like up quicker than my cock in the morning. So it was actually a good move for Ertz, but still a revenge game for me, baby. Tyler Higbee, next up, tight end 7 of the Rams up against the Cowboys. There are 2 players that are immune. They are immunized, just like Aaron Rodgers, from this whole team being dog shit, from the offense being terrible, and that is Tyler Higbee and Cooper Kupp. They're just target machines. Tight end 17, 8, 12, and 6 through the last 4 games of the season. Currently tight end number 7. Last week he saw 14 total targets, 10 receptions, 73 receiving yards, 12 fantasy points, and tight end number 6. I understand the Dallas Cowboys is definitely tough defensively, but again, Tyler Higbee continues to be force-fed the ball, so I had to rank him higher than George Kittle-me-Timbers, tight end of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I like George Kittle. I actually think if you're trying to rank best tight ends in the NFL as a whole, not just for fantasy football, for blocking skills, pass catching abilities, you mix it all together in a fucking mixing bowl. And I think George Kittle might be the most talented tight end overall in the NFL. The problem is the 49ers offense doesn't need to be great to beat a lot of these teams, and George Kittle has been kind of invisible. He's been doing his best John Cena impression because you cannot see him. Tight end 23, tight end 37 through the first 2 games of the season for him. He didn't play week 1 and 2 because he was banged up. If there was ever a game for him to sprout like a beautiful fucking flower, it would be this week up against the Panthers defense. But again, I don't feel overwhelmingly confident in him. Tight end number 9, we got Gerald Everett. And if you wanted to start Everett over Kittle, at this point, I wouldn't judge you. Tight end 4, 11, 33, and 4 through the first 4 games of the season. 5th overall tight end right now in half PPR. He gets the Browns this week and tight end number 10 is the Browns tight end. Very interesting. LA Chargers offense looks a lot better last week compared to what I thought they were going to look like, because I mean, like, after that not after the Wentz injury, after that injury to Justin Herbert the pervert, I started to worry. Keenan Allen's not playing this week. Everett seems like he is in a really good spot to succeed until Allen comes back. So I got to keep ranking him as a top 12 guy. He's finished inside the top 5 already twice. Tight end number 10, David Njoku. Now, after that big game against Pittsburgh, I declare that this might have been a fluke. Might have been a fluky game. But he was tight end 2 in that game. Last week, he was tight end 16. He's still seeing a decent amount of targets. 7 targets last week, 5 receptions, 73 yards, 1 rush for -6 yards, 7 fantasy points, tight end number 16. I think he's pretty reliable. And again, while I think the Chargers need to play better defensively, like they haven't looked good defensively, they look great on paper, but maybe they just never figure things out, right? Maybe the secondary never figures things out, and David Njoku could have a field day here up against the Chargers. Tight end number 11, Tyler Conklin of the Jets, going up against the Dolphins. Now, I would prefer, personally, if Cool Joe Flacco was the starting quarterback of the Jets for Tyler Conklin. Now, I think Zach Wilson's the better quarterback, but in terms of these wide receivers like Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and Tyler Conklin, who's fantastic with Zach Wilson, I would prefer to, or without Zach Wilson, with Joe Flacco, I would prefer Flacco. That's just all I'm saying here. Again, I don't think Flacco's the better quarterback. I just think it's better for Conklin. His targets dipped. 7 targets week 1, 9 targets week 2, 8 targets week 3 with Cool Joe Flacco. 5 targets last week, 52 yards, 3 receptions, 7 fantasy points, tight end 17. Again, the Dolphins' defense is banged up. I think Conklin's a relatively safe play. I don't really see him smashing the slate, but I do think he should have a pretty decent game. Tight end number 12, we got Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Buffalo Bills this week. Now, I'm definitely a little bit lower than the expert consensus rankings right now on Pat Freiermuth, as he's currently ranked the tight end number 9 in expert consensus rankings, and I have him as the tight end number 12. Now, the reason why I have him ranked like that, while I think he's going to be just fine with Kenny Pickett, I really just worry about how this game might just be a bloodbath, and Kenny Pickett might legitimately stand 0 chance against this Bills defense. And if Kenny Pickett legitimately struggles immensely in this game, that's kind of hard to see Freiermuth have a big game. I think he's going to be just fine, but that kind of negative thought about the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers might just get absolutely butt-fucked in this game definitely does slightly worry me. At number 13, we got Hayden Hurst of the Bengals. He is currently set as questionable for this game with a groin injury, but at the end of the day, I genuinely believe he's going to play. Tight end 14, 21, 55, and 10. He's kind of just one of those tight ends that you play every week. You're not really expecting that big blow-up game because, again, there are just so many cooks in the kitchen in Cincinnati. Mr. Titty Boy Tee Higgins, they got Jamar Chase, they have Joe Mixon, Tyler, yeah, Boyd, they've got all those weapons, but still Hayden Hurst has kind of carved a decent role into this offense. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 27 yards, and a touchdown last week against the Dolphins. Again, this Ravens defense is soft as baby shit, so I think Hayden Hurst will have a decent game. 14, now we are in the range where it's literally like you're taking a dart and throwing it at the wall while closing your eyes. Hayden Hurst is kind of the end of that, he's the next guy here, Robert Tonyan, I should say. I should have worded that better. Robert Tonyan is the start of this range where I'm pretty worried about them. There really are only a couple of tight ends that are safe in fantasy football, and then there's kind of just the guys that you play and you're just praying, oh man, if this guy finds the end zone, I'm going to be happy. Or maybe this is the game where he sees like 7 targets. Last week, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 22 yards, and a tug. We all know Robert Kraft loves tugs, so that must have hurt to see Tonyan score a tug against Mr. Robert Tonyan. Tight end 12 at the end of the week. The Green Bay Packers have kind of figured it out. They have Alan Lazard. They have Romeo Dobbs. So Tonyan kind of falls victim to the fact that those guys have kind of boomed recently, but I still think Tonyan has upside against the Giants, especially in England. But again, I really do worry about the fact that since this game is in London, like the Giants are the non-superior team compared to the Packers, especially since Daniel Jones is hurt. But the Giants might just outright win this game because it's in London. Again, crazy shit happens. Tight end number 15, Irv Smith Jr. of the Minnesota Vikings. Tight end 17 in expert consensus rankings, so I do have him a little bit higher, but not by much. He's currently the tight end 20. Again, we're in another scenario where I really like the matchup, but there's a lot of guys in Minnesota. Adam Thielen's starting to see more targets. They have Justin Jefferson. They have Dalvin Cook. They have a lot of guys. Irv Smith is kind of just a distant a distant favorite in this team. They're playing the Bears, so if there ever was a game for him to blow up, it would be this week. But tight end 15. Number 16, we got Dalton Schultz. I don't want to be playing this guy at all. But then I realized, like, after you get past the top 16, things really fall off the edge of the earth. Dalton Schultz disappears in week 4 is the headline from Fantasy Pros. The guy was invisible. Tight end 69 last week. Very nice. I like, but he scored 0 points. He's clearly still banged up. He gets the Rams this week with Cooper Rush. It's kind of just no bueno. Tight end number 17, we got Taysom Hill. Now, Taysom Hill is a guy that you can start, but I don't have supreme confidence in him. The reason why I'd start him is because Jameis is going to play, and we're going to see at least a couple of plays where Taysom Hill gets a go at it. Will he capitalize on them? That's up in the air. But, you know, once you get to this range of tight ends, again, you're trying to just smear shit against the wall and hope it sticks. Taysom Hill has a decent chance of sticking. Tight end number 18, we got Logan Thomas of the Washington Commanders going up against the Les Titans. Last week, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 19 receiving yards, 4 fantasy points. Tight end number 26. He's the tight end 17 on the season. I'm just going to go ahead and hope that he bounces back this week. Again, the team has been on a downward swing. He's been playing worse over the last 2 games. If they bounce back up against the Titans, then I think that Thomas has a good chance of finishing as a top 14 guy. Next up, we got Eazy-E, Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And while Evan Ingram has kind of shed the narrative that this guy just drops every single football thrown to him, he just isn't getting as many targets anymore. Only 1 target last week, 3 targets in week number 3. If he gets 2-3 targets, he has to do the most with them. He gets the Houston defense. So again, at this point, we're just playing matchups with how deep we are at the tight end position. Tight end number 20, Will Dissly of the Seattle Seahawks. 3 out of the first 4 games of the season, this motherfucker has been a top 10 tight end. And that's shocking. He's currently tight end number 10. But the issue is, and this is a big issue, is that Geno Smith throws to every tight end. Pete Carroll himself might start chewing gum on the sideline, go put in there as a tight end. He could score a fucking touchdown from Geno Smith because Geno Smith loves tight ends. Wink, wink. Will Dissly here could have a solid game, but again, wouldn't surprise me if some other random tight end you've never heard of scores a touchdown for the Seahawks. 21, we got Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Top 24 tight end in 3 of the last 4 weeks, so he kind of just deserves to be a top 24 guy. With Taysom Hill kind of getting a little bit more usage, it does hurt Juwan Johnson, but he's probably still going to see 4 or 5 targets in this game up against the Seahawks defense, so he's just going to be not all right, he's going to be bad, but there's worse tight ends than him. 22, Noah Fant of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Saints. Again, the Seattle Seahawks have a ragtag group of tight ends. Got Fant. They've got Dissly. They have other guys that can score touchdowns. Fant's been below decent. Tight end 29. But, like, once you get to this range, again, I'm kind of just going based upon the matchup and the talent of the player. And I think Fant's pretty talented. Tight end 23, rookie Daniel Bellinger of the New York Football Giants going up against the Green Bay Packers. Tight end 13, 17, and 33 through his first 3 starts of his NFL career. He's not really overwhelmingly targeted, but if Daniel Jones is banged up, I'm thinking he's going to take those little shots, right? He's not going to take that deep ball shot. He's going to take the little shot right next to him, and that would be Daniel Bellinger. And tight end 24. Now we're really just off the fucking rails. We got Cole Kmet, tight ends 47 on the season. I was probably the biggest Cole Kmet fanboy there was on earth. I was banging the drum aggressively. I was screaming from the mountaintops for him, but he has not paid off because this Bears team doesn't throw the fucking football. They don't throw the fucking football at all. Justin Fields looks like Stevie Wonder in the pocket when they ask him to throw the ball. So Cole Kmet definitely is at the bottom of the barrel tight end. There are other tight ends that are on this list that I was trying to like mentally do the gymnastics of, oh, I'll rank him higher than Cole Kmet. But the guys below him are like Mike fucking Gesicki, Harrison Bryant, Isaiah Likely, like no one I really wanted to start. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at notorious FNTSY. You got any questions about week number 5, please make sure you leave them down below in the comment section. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, hit that outro. Goodbye!